huge.
I think overall we've really yet to see a round where a DMR, just an outright rifle, sniper rifle, has been able to find the majority of the impact. At most, it's gotten 1 or 2 kills when we found some lucky strikes. Besides that, we haven't really seen any full impact rounds. Get a nice little view of the birds there. You can see flying around before we end up going into the round. But here we go, folks. We're going to start off with it. And you can tell really just by the mini-map size and these pulled-out camera perspectives how big this map is. And more importantly, another variation that comes in with a lot of Onward maps is the degree of cover that you're given as a player. This is one of the least amounts you can just see, especially by this perspective right here, how little cover you're given as a player and how much you have to work off of that. We can already see a firefight beginning here too, as the members of the beginners in the north are going to actually try and catch a few of the members of Dead Logic in the open at the beginning moments. You can see the building they were fired from way in the back of the camera, and we're looking at their perspective now. It's Smoils and Icy Woods trying to fire out into the main village here and see if they can take anyone out from the Dead Logic side, but from the looks of it, it wasn't too successful.
Some really early smoke grenades thrown from the beginner's side there. Not sure, I guess they needed to cross that the north bungalow there with some safety as the Dead Logic were popping off some shots on them, but I would have loved to see those smoke grenades used a little bit closer towards that uplink. However, they did safely cross, so it definitely did its job.
Got them in position more than anything. Now, I don't know if this is as a result of the aggression we saw early on from the high tower in the back, or just the way that the guys on Dead Logic would have played this, but normally we have a little bit more resistance towards the north when playing on this uplink. It seems Dead Logic have chosen not to do that, and as such, Woods 43, and he has another teammate a little bit further behind him too, has been able to basically run in to Uncle Sam's building. He hears it, he's going to call it out, he's going to give away this intel. Woods 43 is still in the hunt. With the amount of noise he's making, he should know that if someone is in this building, he's a dead giveaway right now. So he's going to take a corner, going to hold a pre-fire position here. As quiet as possible, sits ready, waiting for Uncle Sam to push in. Finds an easy knock onto him to take him completely out of the game early on here.
What a play from Woods 43, just baiting out his opponent with the sound cues, but patiently waiting for his opponent to come into his crosshair and gets a really easy kill for himself there.
Another down is found a few seconds later now that Woods 43 has been able to establish a window position inside of the village here too. So we're very quickly looking at Dead Logic's defense starting to fall apart here. Now the players on the east side are going to be able to move in a very strange move as well, something that we don't see really that often at all, is someone from Dead Logic went all the way across the southern canyon and ended up in one of the buildings across from that. This is something that the beginners may not actually see coming, and as such, they're going to have to spend a little bit more time dealing with. We have a very awkward split of players. Rexar, in the meanwhile, is able to come out on top of a fight, manages to take out Dr. Killinger with a headshot, finds an early kill there, and then also is able to take out Kev, a good reversal from Rexar here, doing some great work and fully killing 2 members of the beginners.
And you were right, Rexar's position was so crucial, very out of the ordinary, as you mentioned, and crossed the street into the enemy territory and just set up a perfect trap for 2 enemies, taking them down. And yeah, what a round so far.
It's not even over yet.
It's not over yet, you're right. It's actually a 3 versus 3 situation, but Dead Logic does have a downed player. We'll see if they're able to actually go back and resurrect him or not. Oh, and what a shot from Woods 43, just a sliver of an angle, taking out Angel. And now we're back down to a 1 versus 3 scenario here. However, again, Dead Logic still has a player down. Let's see if he's able to actually resurrect him or not.
I might have gotten the guy on center.
So this is going to be a problem here, is Rexar is currently alone, but you just heard him call out, I might have gotten the guy in the center. Now he's making calls to his teammates, but you'll note, besides the 2 ones that are down, everyone in his team is dead. So Rexar may be a little bit unfamiliar about the situation that's been pushed on him right now. He doesn't seem to care though. Moves out into the open, finds the quick kill onto Woods 43 and take him out, and then clutches it as well. Wow. Was that an ace?
That was an ace from Rexar.
Beautiful round from Rexar. Single-handedly destroys the beginners and out of nowhere picks up that win for them as they take round number 1 on defense.
Wow, Rexar, you mentioned earlier that he was in that southern, he crossed the street into enemy territory a bit, and we saw 2 enemies slowly creeping up on his position. It looked a little tricky, but he came out on top, got those 2 kills, and finished it all out. As you mentioned, he didn't even know his teammates were down.
Yeah, so still just played into his element, didn't really care about the situation surrounding him. Like we said, didn't even have teammates alive, but played like he had them up anyway. Didn't really matter. Throughout all the aggression, and it worked brilliantly for him, was able to find that aggressive kill against Woods 43, who was really kind of one of the key players for the other side of things because he got that north position in the village so early on and found that original kill. He was able to harass every other player on the team except Rexar, who would eventually be the one to take him down when Woods 43 left the relative safety of that building to make a push for the uplink since he didn't seem to be poking out anytime soon. So really, really good stuff from Rexar. Really great job of kind of adjusting when necessary as well. Single-handedly just dominates one of our top teams in Europe and now has put his team ahead at the start of the match.
That is so exciting. As we mentioned earlier, Dead Logic, the team and its players is a little bit newer to the scene than you or I are familiar with, especially, of course, me, but you are familiar with. And so them coming in and just challenging beginners, the #1 and #2 seed in EU, man, that's exciting.
Very exciting stuff indeed. So for Dead Logic, they start off ahead and now have to attack the very same uplink that they just defended with relative success. So it falls to the beginners now to defend it. And they will also take a very different route to this one. Icy Woods, as a result, is going to be able to find an opening kill, and Rexar, the hero of round #1, will unfortunately fall as the second player to go down. A much more aggressive playstyle, incredibly aggressive, in fact, from the beginners here as they move across the southern canyon, take up an active defense on it, in fact, and move a little bit towards the north as well, trying to funnel Dead Logic out, as it seems they've changed the paradigm of play you normally come to expect on this uplink.
Yeah, I mean, we swapped sides, and beginners is on that defending side, a little bit of an easier time for them to find those frags, and they did it. It's a 3 versus 5 scenario, a little challenging for Dead Logic, and you can see that as Dr. Killinger just popping off shots, still shooting.
If Smoils actually gets someone from this, I would be very surprised. He's literally just blind firing out the window, hoping something sticks.
It seems there's a lot of those kinds of strategies, huh, Blue? Just distractions, popping shots, not really with the intent to kill, but more so with the intent to draw attention.
Yeah, really, it's really helpful, especially for players that spawn with the LMG, just because, one, they obviously have way more ammo than the rest of their teammates. Guys with rifles actually may find themselves in a kind of limited ammo situation, so they do not want to be in a position where they have to cover fire. But that's literally what it is. It's covering fire. It allows, it's very... We talked before about how this is a mil-sim game, and this aligns pretty well with that. It's a noise mask, especially if you're shooting at a general position where opponents are going to be. So if someone's very close to an enemy compound, it allows them to run up on it. Say that someone's trying to make just a movement across a big canyon or a divide. Just the fire of, you were saying, it can act as a distraction, maybe get an opponent to look the wrong way. Speaking of distractions, we just saw someone attempt to do that right there. That's a common strategy for both sides, is actually to use the tablet as a decoy. Since the tablet can't be like shot or take any damage, what some players will do is they'll take the tablet out and then wave it in the window while ducking below it, and basically use that to try and bait out an attempted headshot from their opponents. And it has worked quite a few times to try and fish out, players with DMRs or just guys that are kind of holding hard points.
Really creative ways that players come up with to try to give themselves a slight advantage of any sort, a slight edge within the round, to try to put themselves in an advantageous position to try to get as many points as they can. I like that. Last week we saw a player moaning out, acting as if he was downed,
yeah.
but he actually wasn't. And so these kinds of creative approaches, I respect it.
It's something that players do when they get hit by nades, basically to make it seem like that they went fully dead instead of just got down normally, where they can still be revived. So they'll attempt to mimic the down sound, because it's usually the same every single time, as far as I can recall. So players will sometimes try to fake it a little bit, and we saw examples of that. You said last week, and I think we saw it on week #1 as well. So a lot of fun, a lot more. It's cool because this is actually building upon what we saw in Season 2. This is even the moaning players do to try and fake deaths and stuff like that. We didn't really see a whole lot of that in Season 2, so players are continuing to evolve in this game and come up with more creative strategies. Even this, like I said, playing aggressively across the Southern Canyon. I think we saw a few teams doing this in the last season, but it wasn't all that common of a strategy. After a little bit of silence, though, we do finally see another kill happening. Woods 43 is able to take out a member of Dead Logic, and it seems like Dead Logic's overall strategy has failed for this round. They're now down to a 1v5. It's Uncle Sam against the entire world here, as the beginners still sit 5 men strong. It's a process of elimination, and they found him. Uncle Sam is going to try his best to battle, but as far as I can see, he has no cover to work with. It's actually very surprising Dr. Killinger didn't get him down, but Woods 43 will take care of the job for him. Uncle Sam gets knocked out. The beginners take revenge for their loss in round #1, and they tie the game up now at 1-1.
And you saw Uncle Sam there trying to get as low to the ground as he possibly could to try to bob and weave and dodge those bullets, but it wasn't enough. Unfortunately, he was put in a really sticky situation. And yeah, when you're attacking and you're down 1 versus 4, That's pretty tough.
Yeah, especially in Downfall. And since they were kind of stunted so early in the round, we saw them, like I said before, move really aggressively to the east, across the canyon in the south, managed to pick up at least one, if not two kills within the first minute or so of the round. And that's a really unfortunate event to happen to the attackers, as it really kills your opening strategy. Any players that are a little bit unsure of themselves may have to take a second back and wait for instructions to come from the hierarchy of the team or something like that. Players may just second guess themselves if they know that that's happened, and overall they'll be a little bit less encouraged to make riskier plays, things like that, because they know if they die now it's down to a 2v5, and that situation becomes nearly impossible, especially on Downfall, just because of how big the map is and how many options there are for the defenders to sit in.
That is tough. I have might be a silly question.
Yeah, go ahead.
But so let's say in this scenario we go backwards. You're Dead Logic. You're in a 2 versus 5. Can you go back to your tent and get a different gun?
No.
No. Okay.
No. So the tent basically doesn't actually exist in the map itself. It's basically just a little instance that the players will spawn into in between rounds before they get thrown back out onto the map. So there's no way to go back into a buy zone or anything like that, or a spawn zone where you'd be able to get more weapons here. So you only have what's on you and what's on your teammates after they unfortunately would have died. Same for your opponents too. But obviously, on a map like this, it's going to be a little bit harder to get to the corpses of your opponents.
Definitely. That's good to know. I was wondering if there was any possibility the players could go back and pick up a sniper or pick up some more utility, but
no.
It's definitely not possible. But so you just have to loot the utility that you can find.
And that's why we see players, that's why oftentimes we see players, you'll see, oftentimes it'll look like a mistake if you're coming from other games, but this is not, because you can hand off grenades and ammo to your teammates, so sometimes you'll see players throw a grenade at their teammate or something like that, and that's because the grenade's not primed, it's just a dead grenade or an unprimed grenade at that point. They're literally throwing it to their teammate because they're in a better position to throw it, and they want to chuck it into the open. You can even do that with live nades in this game, which is something specifically for smokes that I found really unique. So you don't actually want to throw a smoke right on top of an enemy, because if it's on the ground, they can literally just pick it up and throw it back.
Oh.
Even if it's already been popped at that point. So that's something that's really cool with this game that I don't think I've ever seen in another FPS. Where you can actually pick up a smoke that's been thrown down and just move it. And we even see teammates sometimes, they'll just pop a smoke in their hand and they'll just run around waving it in the air and just try to cover themselves as much as possible. Usually doesn't work, unfortunately, because the smoke takes a second to obscure stuff. But
definitely. Talking about the smoke, though, when you're in the smoke, I've actually not experienced this in the game itself yet, but what is the visibility like? Is it
basically zero.
Zero,
yeah.
Okay.
It's basically from my experience, it puts basically a white pane about 2 inches in front of your face. So, or 2 inches.
So they're very, very strong smokes.
Yes, they're very. Now they do get relatively weaker on the edges of them, at least if you're outside of the smokes. So that's where they're kind of limited, especially on a big map like this. It kind of doing a smoke wall or something like that, like you would see in other games, is not as powerful as a strategy. And you can even see that how they very much dither out into separate smoke particles when you get to the end of the effect there. So trying to chain multiple smokes together is not as effective of a strategy. We did see, however, the beginners got off to a good start on this map. They found a very early opening kill against Dead Logic here and have restricted their defense. You can slowly see Dead Logic having to kind of crunch in towards their uplink now, a little bit further towards the north now that we have changed the uplink point, and it's gone nearly inside of one of the buildings, if I recall where this one is positioned. Meanwhile, beginners, they've had a relative amount of success with their aggression. No one going down just yet. They are keeping I believe it's going to be a designated sniper, way in the back, actually outside of the minimap, technically. So it does, we just want to clarify, it may look like on the minimap that they're outside of the bounds of the map, but they're not. They are technically still on the map. There just isn't a minimap that goes out that far.
Oh, wow. Well, you can see a stark difference here. Beginners, it looks on the minimap as if they've corralled the defenders all around that uplink, and they're just slowly kind of choking them out and making them get closer and closer together. And these close proximity fights is got to be a little bit more challenging for Dead Logic here.
Yeah, right now the problem for the beginners is that they are starting to run a little bit low on time. They're down to about 2 minutes left. Rexar coming alive again once again as he finds a quick pickup on the Woods 43. And they haven't been able to get across this main kind of line of scrimmage in the south that exists between them and their opponents right now. However, that's going to change as they make this big push in. Spoil is able to find Uncle Sam. Unfortunately, just lost another one of their teammates over towards the north. Or excuse me, no, he was lost towards the south. The north flank is still alive and well. However, Rexar once again is showing up here, finds his second kill on the round. Smoils will down his teammate. Angel gets knocked out in the process. We go into what's a 2 versus 2.5 as one player is still left alive, but that'll change as Smoils finishes him off. Kev with another one. Rexar trades onto Kev, but he's not fully out just yet. So it's down to Smoils against one player still standing from Dead Logic to decide this round. That'll be Neox, who just is on the other side of this big building.
Wow, Rexar almost coming up so huge once again. Such impactful frags coming out of this man.
Walk right into each other.
Smoils closing out that round. Oh man, Dead Logic, they almost had it. Rexar almost had a heroic performance once again. He already aced, got 5 kills, and in this round he had, I believe, two very huge kills. But unfortunately, they weren't able to close it out.
Yeah, one of the situations where things just happen a little bit too quickly for the last player left alive that's sitting on the side of Dead Logic, just doesn't know exactly where that player's position. He's got a good idea because of the kill that happened before, so he can work off of sound cues to try and find him there. But as you saw, walks inside of that building. They both accidentally walk into each other. I don't think either player was expecting to find the other one there, but Smoils has a massive angle advantage in that final fight. He's outside of the window, isn't really revealing much of his body. It seemed like he actually had the rifle like already inside of the window, ready to shoot too. So maybe he actually knew that his opponent was working his way through there. But for his opponent, walks into an open room, no cover to work with, and his opponent, all I could see is his head. So unless he had a very clutch headshot, he was going to die there, absolutely.
For sure. And actually, I noticed Smoils, he had a really interesting round. He was up in an elevated position and was trying to get an angle on an enemy, but I believe he accidentally fell off the map, but he had such quick reactions because he ran right into an enemy and was able to punish him and eliminate him accidentally almost, it seemed, but it was very fast reactions, really impressive from Smoils.
Well, guys, we're going to be moving into our next round here in just a second. Currently, it is 2-1 to the beginners, with them winning that last round. They now sit on map point. Quick reminder again for anyone that's tuning in that's new, we oftentimes get a few more curious viewers every week that want to tune in. It's 3 points to win a map. We talked about before about how there is a bonus point mechanic. Normally, if you just win the round by killing all 5 of your opponents, you only get 1 point. But if you can complete the objective on the attacking side and send the uplink code, you'll get an additional point to win the game there. Nope, only the attackers can do that, of course. There's no bonus point mechanic for the defending team.
And I'd love to see more of that, Blue. Last week we saw one match out of all of them where we saw plots going in really strong for that uplink and putting in that code. I want to see some more uplink based strategies. It seems because in this game you get punished a lot easier because it takes less bullets to actually eliminate. However, yeah, I want to see these smokes coming out right around the uplink and see teams really base their entire strategy around getting that code into the uplink. I think that'd be interesting.
Now, speaking of smokes around the uplink, the beginners feel relatively confident. Either that or they're using these smokes to cross early on, are a little bit conscious of Dead Logic getting the high spawn position and trying to kind of fire on them early on here. Regardless, though, quite a few of the defenders' smokes are used right at the beginning of the round to reposition, which does include getting a player onto the edge of the southern canyon, kind of defend against that. It seems like he's going to have quite the fight. This would be Woods 43 sitting on the inside of this building here, and he's going to have at least 3 players pushing down to his south end, where he'll look and try, of course, his best to pick up some kills here. Meanwhile, we've already got players moving in, but Woods 43 has already found a mark. Angel from the adjacent building on the other side of the canyon is knocked down and fully eliminated. It's a headshot as well from Woods 43 at that range, so some nice marksmanship coming out from him to knock out a member of Dead Logic early here.
Unlucky for Dead Logic there. We saw beginners focusing just one player towards the north side of this map, but Dead Logic has 2 players moving in on the north and trying to create a flank. This might throw beginners off a little bit because Woods 43 did eliminate an enemy. He may not expect a second player there in that same area.
So Woods as well. This is the other benefit that Woods is going to have with a position like this is he's been revealed now, right? Like, enemies know where he is. So there's no negative to him talking and giving out as much information as possible now that he's playing into such a lone star position like this. So he's actually able to provide, in addition to, you know, potentially kills, which he's already got one way up there to the north, he's also able to, you know, basically provide exact movements of his enemies. If they try to push the South Canyon, he's going to know it. He's going to hear it more than anything, and he can call that out. Gives his teammates a good 10 to 15 second warning that something's coming their way. And that means a lot in this game.
He's just making himself a communication turret, huh?
So I don't know if that was someone. I think it was someone taking damage, but that might have been Woods 43 making the fake death noise again and just kind of doing it a little bit early because he thought he was going to take enough damage to go down. But it might have been the in-game one too, just because he did take some damage there, and you could see that with the use of his syringe.
And again, we've got a player in the far southern side of the map on Dead Logic. Again, as you mentioned, it looks funny because it looks like he's off the map itself. But we'll see what he can do with that position.
Yeah, they just don't have the minimap textured that far down, but it is still in play. They're not confusing the game or anything like that. Woods 43, in the meanwhile, still holding a strong position on the inside of that building. on the west side of the Southern Canyon. Picks up a second kill on this round alone. And again, this is the main problem for Dead Logic. Their strategy revolves, and then you can see this is that out-of-bounds part, or quote-unquote out-of-bounds part of that map that Neox is sitting on the inside of. It's very high up, and that's why players like to go here, because if you get shot, all you gotta do is go prone, just drop down to the ground, and they probably don't have an angle on you. And you have a high ground position, so it's usually gonna be pretty useful if you try to catch a defender lurking or someone peeking out a window a little bit too far. Very powerful position up here. More so for Overwatch than anything else as well, just to try and give your teams info on what's going on down in that village.
We can see that player on Dead Logic on the far north end of the map. He's finally made his way a little bit closer to that uplink. We'll see if he's able to actually make some impact, create some sort of distraction, or create a perfect flank while his teammates on the southern end of the map create a diversion of some sort. Oh, and Rexar, he gets taken out. Oh man, it took him so long to actually finally get to that position, but with a minute and a half left, Beginners takes him down. It is now a 2 versus 4 situation. Actually a 1 versus 4, with the player on Dead Logic already being knocked out.
Well, we've recently seen Neox going down. That's the player he's actually still shooting at right now. It was Smoils that fired the shot and got the kill. And it's Smoils that's now trying to finish him off, as he's not fully dead just yet. Meanwhile, it's Uncle Sam now as the last player still fully alive. The moment for Dead Logic here, and they still haven't dealt with Woods 43, who right now is the main focus of Uncle Sam.
Woods 43 has been in an advantageous position the whole map, but Smoils, this guy, every time I see him, he's just shooting his gun consistently.
And there we go. Woods 43 gets the run out, finishes off Uncle Sam, and that's going to do it, ladies and gentlemen, with Woods 43 having a fantastic round in the lone house there by the canyon. He basically single-handedly holds off the entire push coming in from Dead Logic, and as such, we will see the Beginners take the map